Hello, everybody. It is a Vibe Check Thursday on the list. As always, my name is Brett. Join me, as always, is Danny Crossman's future replacement, Coach Jordan. Jordan, how you doing today?
I am great. I don't know if I'm too old to use the term vibe check, but sure, if it's a vibe check
It
Thursday,
is,
we'll go with it.
it is a vibe check. Well, I'm getting ready to go on vacation in a couple of days, so it's
Where are you
definitely a
going?
vibe check for me. Down to Myrtle Beach. I will be a couple hours away from our producer, Zach. I guess it would be a day trip for him if he wanted to take it. But yeah, going down for a week down to Myrtle Beach is going to be a fun time.
Is he going to take it?
Zach, you have an open invite. I can see you just chilling there. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome to come hang out.
Well, I was meaning you and is he going to go see you in Myrtle Beach?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I think after last week, and I always love having Zach on, but I think we might need like a beeper or like a bleeper
Yeah.
to, to hit him with a couple times. That was fun.
It was fun. And last Friday, we had our first preseason game. I was able to watch from home, and it's a funny story. So I know you were at the game, Jordan.
I
Spoiler
was.
for those who weren't there, Jordan was at the game. But it
And
said
again,
it
I
was.
just have to plug that I have to miss the first home game because of my cousin, who I love very much.
Yeah. So it ended up being a very funny situation because, yes, Zach does have a potty mouth. But
Not necessarily a bad thing. It's just
no, it is not a bad thing. But so it said that it was going to be the Steelers Texans on NFL Network. And it ended up getting the Dolphins because in Pennsylvania, they consider Steelers a local team. So they blacked out the game on NFL Network to show it locally.
right.
But it wasn't shown locally here because we're right in the middle and it's like we're closer to Baltimore and to Philadelphia. And they were playing each other. So they got priority. So a lot of Steeler fans locally were pissed because it was blocked out of the national setting to be played locally, and it wasn't even played locally. So I got to watch the team, and I was happy about it. I didn't have to go pull up the VPN and go through Paramount. I could just watch it on TV. So that was
What
nice.
not to throw anybody under the bus or get anybody canceled. If you can maybe spell it out for us. What stream do you prefer?
Um, well, now that I have Paramount Plus, I can just use that through the VPN and change the setting to Miami.
Nice.
But there's the stream I would use if I didn't have that starts with a division rival. I will just say that.
Patriot Network?
Yeah, basically. But yeah, Jordan, I am interested to get your opinions from the first preseason game. And yes, I realize we're about a week late, but so sue us. But life happens. We did win. No one really cares about the wins. It's
I care
preseason.
about the wins.
You care about it because you're not going to be there for the first game.
Hey,
But
I won my first game. The pressure's on everybody that's going to be at opening day.
fair enough. But it is a lot of backups. I did like what they did, and they put Patrick Paul out there, and they said, you're just getting every snap, like I said last week we should do. So I am happy about that. And while there are things to take with a grain of salt because it is preseason, I do think there are things that are encouraging that we can build on, especially when it comes to the roster build. And that's why we went to MiamiDolphins.com. We pulled up the roster because there are some interesting position battles. And really, Jordan, cornerback starts. We thought about Wikipedia, Mr. S, but we're going to do it this way.
You can go to Wikipedia if you want. We can ad lib for a second. We can even do this, take it off the screen, put us live while we work behind the scene. We are tech savvy here at the list.
We are. Give me 2 seconds.
Well, we don't have to have 2 seconds. They can think we're doing show right now.
Yep.
Hi, Zach. See you down there. Nice. Brett,
I got Wikipedia up.
Brett, what's your favorite Pokemon?
My favorite Pokemon?
Yep.
Probably. I was always for Gen 1. It was always I'd always use Squirtle, so Blastoise. But as Gen 2 came out, I'd say Typhlosion.
Nice. That's a good choice.
All right, so we do have the roster out up. It is cleaner. I do like how it was kind of put up, but this way we can kind of segment it. And
let's start at the top.
Okay, we can. So we'll start with quarterbacks. Spoiler, we didn't see Tua. Wasn't shocked by that. We got Skylar Thompson for the first half, Mike White for the second. I know a lot of people are panicking about the backup quarterback, and it's not a great situation, but I think with Mike White, we got to look at who he was throwing to. Because I believe there's a difference between him throwing to, let me look at the roster. He was throwing to Jaquan Burton, Kyrick McGowan, Willie Snead, and Mike Harley. And I didn't know 3 of those 4 were on the roster at the time of the game. So I will give him some leeway with his bad performance. Skylar, though?
Funny story about Kyrick McGowan, and we're going to get down to the receivers in a little bit. But for like 20 minutes, I convincingly talked about him as Bryce McGowan's, which is a basketball player, and full blown thought it was that guy because I had never heard of him.
Someone says Pikachu.
No offense to Mr. McGowan.
Oh, answer. So yeah, Pikachu. Yeah. So Mike White, I'm kind of like, he's more of a gamer than a practice guy. Or when it comes time, I'm sure we'll get a better appearance out of him. So I'm not too worried about that. Skylar, I think we just kind of know this. He's a 7th round pick for a reason. He's old. He's an older player for his time in the NFL, but you're not really going to get much of him. I kind of wish we would have brought another arm in to kind of challenge him for that 3rd spot, last practice squad spot. But I'm not really too worried about, like, yes, if Tua goes down, we're screwed. But you can say that about any team and their quarterbacks. But I'm not too worried about it. I think it just proved that Mike White's still above Skylar.
I have 2 words for you, Brett. 2 words for you. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Ryan Tannehill.
I see that a lot.
Call your boy. Tell him to come back home. Tua would get a ladder ovation, obviously, coming into the season either way. Ryan Tannehill would get such a warm welcome coming back here. And I think it would be the perfect upgrade at backup quarterback for the Dolphins. He fits, and I think he's an upgrade to both Mike White and Skylar Thompson. And it would be an unbelievable homecoming. And I think that, we'd have to find a different number for him, but bringing Tannehill back, signing him to a 1-year deal and letting him finish his career here. And then even putting somebody like Talia on the practice squad. I think that is the route to go. So on my 53-man roster that I'm currently making here on paper, I have Tua and Ryan Tannehill as our 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, fair enough. I think they're going to kind of ride it out and then maybe add a veteran to the practice squad later. But
do you think they'll keep 3?
No,
I think Skylar gets cut.
I think with the roster, I think Skylar ends up. I would say Skylar gets cut unless he just kills it the next time. Well, they keep 3 no matter what, as Zach said.
Well, but can you put? I don't know.
It's tough. I think they'll look, but I think Skylar's the one that's in trouble.
For sure. He looked horrible.
He did not look good. And he actually had even the receivers we cut, he had the receivers that are still going to be in the NFL after cut down.
Right.
So, but yeah, there was no Ezekama, there was no Waddle, there was no Tyreek Hill, obviously. OBJ still on PUP. He got Malik Washington, and Malik Washington did look good. But we'll get down to wide receiver in a second. Going to go to running back first. Obviously no Mostert, obviously no Achane, no Ingold either. So it was Jeff Wilson, Jalen Wright, and Chris Brooks. Jalen Wright looked really good. I didn't know much about him when we drafted him. I knew he was fast, but he's faster than I thought. He has great vision. I would arguably say he probably has the best vision on the team from running back position. And I still think from seeing some of the all 22, he missed a couple chances to get even more yards because he just he made the wrong cut. But I thought it looked really good. I think the question becomes, do we keep 4 running backs? And if we do, is it Brooks or is it Wilson? I think they both had their good and bad, but that's where I think we're going to see where we go.
So I think Achane, even as we move in the next couple years, I think his role in this offense is built out. And it makes sense when they listed as 2 different running back positions on the depth chart, because I think that Achane does a little bit of a different role than what we ask from our every down back, which is where I think a guy like Jalen Wright comes into play. I think Jalen Wright is the guy that's going to eventually replace Mostert probably next year. And you'll see Wright and Achane be a 1-2 duo. So I think that the 3 locks for the roster are Achane, Mostert, and Jalen Wright. To me, when you look at Jeff Wilson and you look at Chris Brooks and even a guy like Savon Ahmed, to me, the only guy that brings something that you don't have in your running back room already is Chris Brooks.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that he's a power back, the fact that he's physical, and the fact that we struggle in 3rd and 1 situations and goal line situations, and just having a big bruiser that you could throw in there for a play here and there, I think is a really important thing to have. I don't see Jeff Wilson getting on the field over the other 3 guys. So to me, the 4 running back spots are Mostert, Achane, Wright, and Brooks, with obviously Alec Ingold on the roster.
Yep. Wide receiver, like we said, we basically know how this room is going to look. Malik Washington, he showed that he's going to be a steal as a 6th-round pick. Again, yes, it's first preseason game, so he's going up against people who aren't going to be in the NFL. But you can see the talents there. I think he's going to be the 3rd receiver. I think it's becoming more and more likely that River Craycraft ends up making this roster because he's had a great camp. He did look good in the preseason game when he was in. He blocks really well, so I think he might sneak in. The question is, do you keep an Eric Ezekama who's been hurt, just came back? Do you keep Berrios? I think it's the back end. Do you keep 5 receivers or do you keep 6 receivers?
I'm a guy that keeps 6. But I think you only keep 6. I think it's dependent on what's going on with Odell. He said he's coming out. He said he's going to play. So right now I have 6 receivers on the roster. I have Hill, Washington, Odell, Waddle, Berrios, Craycraft, in obviously no order. I think that Craycraft there's a huge drop off. Izukama's in there. The rest of the guys I think are way down. And I also think that Taj Washington getting hurt probably saved Craycraft's spot on this roster. Because I think if you went back and right after the draft, I think we had this conversation, and I said I thought that only one of Berrios and Craycraft were going to make the roster. Because I thought it was going to be Hill, Waddle, another veteran, and then the 2 Washington. So I think that injury opens up that spot. And when you look at the receivers, the one thing I'll say about Washington, they obviously had him on punt returns in the last game. He took some big hits in that game.
He did.
I feel like every time the Falcons got a big hit, and we were like, oh, what number was that? It was 83 every time.
Yeah.
So he's a tough kid. We're asking him to do some things that are different and play outside. But I think once the season comes around, I think his role will be mostly in the slot. And then Odell will be that next guy on the outside behind Waddle and Tyreek. But like I said, I see us keeping 6, which is interesting because I also see us keeping possibly 4 tight ends. But yeah. I also can't see us not letting go of one of those receivers unless Odell decides he's not playing, which to me would be a surprise.
Yeah, receiver is one of those situations where I'm kind of looking at it, and it would not shock me if we end up trying to trade. If wide receiver is one of the positions where we try and trade for a late round pick.
I'll say this. I would be surprised if, and I saw Mr. S just put that in there, I would be surprised if Izukanma made the roster. I'd be
I
more
kind of
surprised
am
about
too.
that.
I kind of am too, but he does bring something we don't have, which is a little bit of size. But
like that size isn't a good thing from the sideline.
True. On to tight end. Tight end is one I think is a little more interesting than I expected it to be. I think Jonnu Smith, Julian Hill, and Durham Smythe are all locks. Do we keep 4? And the question is, who is the 4th? Because Tanner Connor had a couple nice plays in the receiving game, but he's still a glorified receiver. I don't think Jody Fortson looked bad.
I like Jody Fortson. I'm a Jody Fortson guy.
Yeah, I think he looked good out there, but Hayden Rookie was just
I have his name right here.
People. And it's one of those things where it's like he played well enough where it's like I want to see him with the first team a bit, just because he was such a good blocker. I don't think he makes the team though. I think we try and stash him, in long term they try and develop him into, ironically, another former Wisconsin Badgers long-term replacement, Alec Ingold, and try and make him into a fullback. But yeah, that ended up being a tougher battle than I thought it would be.
Brett, I'll give you something to watch.
Okay.
My thing to watch is Durham Smythe not making this team via trade or free agency or getting cut.
That's fair, because they keep talking about how Julian Hill's just taking everything to a next level this year in practice.
I think. How did you say his name? Rookie. I think it's Rookie. I have him being put on the practice squad, and I have our 4 tight ends being Jonnu Smith, Julian Hill, Jody Fortson, and Tanner Connor. To me, I see Jody Fortson, and this might be people can easily disagree. I see Jody Fortson as more of a lock than some other people. I think they really like Julian Hill, and I think obviously Jonnu Smith is making the team.
Yeah. Julian Hill, like I said, he is one that everybody, like, you talk to any player, they're like, he is taking that step. He looked big last year as a rookie, and he looks even bigger from what I've seen this year. And he got the orange jersey this week, so you know how he's doing.
Yeah. So that's definitely something to watch, at least to me. But I think in these next 2 games, it's going to be important. I even want to see Jonnu Smith get on the field.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Our tight end room is really deep right now, and we have some good guys in there. And so I would like to see everybody play and properly evaluate this with an open mind.
Yeah. The fun position, offensive line. Again, I will say this. It was the first preseason game against a bunch of backups. But I remember it wasn't that long ago where we would put backup offensive linemen in against backups in the preseason, and they would get destroyed. So to see them play well like they did, I am taking that as encouraging, but still with a grain of salt, if that makes sense. For those who missed the game, we started with Patrick Paul at left tackle, Keon Smith at left guard, Jack Driscoll at center, right guard was Lester Cotton, right tackle was Ryan Hayes. Keon Smith, unfortunately, took a nasty knee from his helmet to knee from his own teammate. Tore his ACL. He's out for the year. Sucks. He was making it looked like he was making good progress. So then, what's his name? Sean Harlow came in, Jack's older brother. Don't know if that's true or not. Just wanted to make the Jack Harlow reference. But he came in at left guard. And of course, I made a snide comment in Discord how we had the one center in our roster playing guard now, and we had the guard playing center. So Harlow's the guard. But then what ended up happening is Lester Cotton came out real quick, and then what's his name? Andrew Meyer from UTEP, I believe, came in at center. So for much of the game, the offensive line ended up being Patrick Paul, Sean Harlow, Andrew Meyer, Jack Driscoll, and Ryan Hayes. And I thought they looked good. there were some moments where you're like, okay, these guys are backups. But I thought it was very encouraging to the point where I actually think Andrew Meyer, you find a way to get him and Harlow onto the team as backups.
Yeah, I think we keep 9 offensive linemen. I think Harlow and Meyer, if we can stash them on the practice squad, I think we'll try to and activate them here and there as backups. But here are the 9 that I have making the team. It's Armstead, Austin Jackson, Patrick Paul, Kendall Lamb, Jack Driscoll, Wynn, Robert Jones, Liam Eichenberg, and Aaron Brewer. I assume Isaiah Wynn will start maybe on PUP, and that'll allow us to maybe keep Harlow on the roster.
Well, I don't know if you heard. It sounds like Isaiah Wynn's not even close right now.
Right. So you cross him off, and that's where you put one of those center guys. My guess would be Harlow, and then you put somebody like Mayer there on the practice squad.
Mr. S just asked, think we will trade for an IOL? Jordan, I'll say this because we're in a couple groups of Dolphins fans, and there were some heated debates on the offensive line, especially with Brewer missing, being week to week. I believe this is you he's referencing, giving Baltimore a call.
That was me.
Yeah. I don't think we do. I've said it multiple times. People are going to get tired of hearing it. If you look at the Shanahan offense going back to the 90s, all the coaches, they invest in the tackles. They'll occasionally invest in guards and center, but they normally rely on late round undrafted or value free agents who just fit the blocking scheme. Now, we can argue whether this is the right approach or not, but for Coach McDaniel, he thinks this is the way to go. And I think they are confident that with the people they have in camp right now, they can get a quality offensive line. Will they or not? Did Robert Jones take the step people seem to think he has at practice? Is Eichenberg going to be better than awful? We got to see it in like a live game. I think the big thing as well is you got to stay committed to run game, which is the season. We kind of did the inverse of what you want to do. When it gets later in the season, it gets colder and you're playing cold weather games. We decide to get more pass happy rather than rely on the run. But I do think the team genuinely feels that we have the guys in camp to make this a serviceable offensive line. And I think we can. I just think we got to be less greedy with our play calling.
Yeah, I think if I had to guess right now what the starting lineup is going to be in a couple weeks against Jacksonville, my guess is something to the extent of, from left to right, Armstead, Robert Jones, Aaron Brewer, Jack Driscoll, and Austin Jackson. That's what I would go with. I assume that just to spite me, Liam Eichenberg will start and play well. If he plays well, that's best case scenario, and I'll love it. But to me, that's what the 5 is going to be going into week 1.
Of course, the thing you might get is Driscoll, Harlow, and Meyer, if they keep performing like they have been, or even Ryan Hayes too, who isn't making the roster, but I think they try and stash on practice squad. With how they played, maybe you get them saying, hey, does the team want to give us a conditional pick for Eichenberg?
God, please. Please.
Yeah. Now, if Eichenberg ends up developing, I'd be thrilled. But, not everybody's going to take that jump in year 4 like Austin Jackson did. Defensive line, we've already had a cut this week. How do you say his name? Tyler Tart?
Tart.
Yeah, we just cut him, which some people seem shocked by. But Neville Gallimore looked good. Deshaun Hand people love. Isaiah Mack, who I didn't even know was on the team, looked great against the future real estate salesmen that were on Atlanta Falcons. But I was actually impressed. Let me just say this for the defense. Yes, it's practice squad. or not practice squad preseason, so it is going to be practice squad players. So take it as a grain of salt. But I was really impressed by the mindset the defense had. The change from Fangio to Weaver was so noticeable. And you can just see, like, you can even tell just even with the backups that it's going to be different. And they even, I forget which player said it, maybe Calais Campbell, that they always have 11 guys to the ball on every play, and you never see that. And it seemed like that. They looked like they were hitting hard, and it made me excited. But I do think our defensive line is really deep.
Yeah, our defensive line is really deep. I think you can pick any combination of Calais Campbell, Neville Gallimore, Deshaun Hand, Jonathan Harris, Benito Jones, Isaiah Mack, Brandon Pilley, and Zach Sealer. You can pick any combination of that, and you're going to have a solid defensive line right now. Anthony Weaver's defense had so much energy. It had the energy that feels like a defensive coordinator that's going to be a head coach in a couple years. But I think that that's going to be something to watch. I think the Dolphins' defense are going to be absolute studs this year. As for the guys I have making the roster, I had us keeping 5. I have us putting Isaiah Mack on the practice squad, and then going Calais Campbell, Neville Gallimore, Deshaun Hand, Benito Jones, and Zach Sealer. As much as I love Brandon Pilley, I think that we're at the point right now, and I do have Jonathan Harris missing the team as well. I just see those veteran guys playing that role in this defense, and we have too much depth there. Now, if we keep 3 tight ends, I could see Pilley being the next guy right there. But I just think right now, if we're only going to keep 5, that he's on the outside looking in.
Yeah, linebacker is going to be another tough one. It looked like Grayson Murphy was on track to make the team. Unfortunately, you guys can see there too. Had a knee injury. I thought he came back into the game after getting hurt, but it was an MCL injury. They put him on IR. I kind of think that was a strategic IR, which sucks for the player, but I'm pretty sure they were just like, yeah, we don't want to lose you, and we just don't have room for you.
Yeah.
But there's a couple people that are going to make it interesting. Channing Tindall finally made plays in preseason, but he's still behind Zeke Vandenberg, it seems like. I think he only got in because Vandenberg got hurt too. But another guy who I didn't even know was on the team is Curtis Bolton, and he looked really good. But I think those guys, I just think the guys in front of them, there's just so much depth. Again, a position that was a weakness, I think, going into the year, I think is now very much a strength. And there's going to be some good players left off the roster. And that's not even mentioning Quentin Bell.
Yeah, I have the edge position and inside linebacker obviously separated. I actually, Mr. S says he's worried about the linebacker room, and I'm not really sure I do. I am. The guys I have being kept on the edge, Quentin Bell, Jalen Phillips, Cameron Good, Chop Robinson, Mo Kamara, and Agba. I think that you'll see, obviously, Chubb not start the year on the team. And the inside linebackers, I have Jordan Brooks, David Long, Anthony Walker, and then I picked Channing Tindall. I think it's either going to be him or Zeke Vandenberg. Right now, I give the leg to Tindall because he did really pop off the screen. Was it one play? Yeah, but sometimes that's what the preseason is.
Yeah.
Vandenberg could be a guy that's on the practice squad, and I think is a quick, immediately call up or even an activation some game days.
Good question. You cutting Juke?
I'm not a Duke Riley fan. I think if you went back to last year, I think I cut him last year. I think I probably talked a decent amount of crap about him, including his performance in the playoff game. I won't say that I love Duke Riley.
Yeah.
I won't be surprised if he makes the team. I'll root for him. But I think you got to keep one of those younger guys, and I think we have needs elsewhere that we can't be keeping 5 or 6 interior linebackers.
Yeah. And again, this is a situation where do not be shocked if this is where another thing where either we make a surprise cut or do a trade. Because I saw it mentioned on Twitter last year we signed Dan Freeney, and we traded him.
Dan Feeney.
Freeney, whatever.
No, very different. If we signed Freeney, it'd be bigger news.
Yes. When the Greer started, if you remember, we traded for Bednarik McKinley, who was a good linebacker for a while with Houston, and we cut him after we traded for him. So they will make those decisions, those odd decisions here and there. So I wouldn't be shocked there. And the same, I wouldn't be shocked if there's some changes in the secondary room, because some people I was not expecting really popped off the screen. And the one I'm going to mention, who I think was the best player against Atlanta, was our 6th-round pick, who everybody just wrote off, and that's Patrick McMorris.
I would love to go back, and I would love for Mr. S to cut. You and I sat here after day 3, and I think Kevin Fiedler, as I call him, was on with us too, Kevin Fielder from Rivals. And I think we said that if the Dolphins scouting team was really pushing for us to pick him and nobody knew about him and he wasn't supposed to get drafted and we used a 6th on him, we had an inkling that he was going to be decent. I think he was excellent. I also think Ciaran Neal was better than expected.
Mm-hmm.
At corner, I think he played really well when most of us thought he was just going to be a special teams type guy. He came in and played pretty well. I have the secondary. It's tough. I actually think there's a chance, and a decent chance. You talk about a trade or a cut type guy. I see Kader Kohu in that kind of range right now because I think he's significantly behind Jalen Ramsey, Ethan Bonner, Fuller, Ciaran Neal, and Nick Needham. And then you got guys like Storm Duck. And then you have guys like the safeties that are around. Cam Smith wasn't even mentioned by us, and he's going to make the team. We are so deep defensively, and we don't have a lot of top-end talent defensively. We have some, obviously. We have Jalen Ramsey. We have Javon Holland. We have very good players. But we have in excess of solid football players.
Yeah, and
more so than I ever remember the Dolphins having.
Yeah, and Ethan Bonner's he getting all that hype, but he lived up even against the 3rd and 4th stringers for Atlanta. He lived up to the hype. He had one bad play, but I think the replay showed that he actually got his face mask pulled, but it led to a big gain. But he showed great instincts. He showed great tackling. McMorris and Bonner really popped out. Storm Duck, I would say, is the next guy, but someone I don't think anybody talks about, because I was like, who's number 37? And it's Isaiah Johnson, who was this undrafted rookie. He looked really good, and I see people on Twitter just drooling over him. And then a guy who's been making plays during camp, who I didn't even know was on the team, also looked good in the game, Jalen Motry. For all the complaints we have sometimes about who we draft, who we sign, as long as Chris Greer's been here, we have always been good at finding undrafted secondary players to step in, or even day 3 guys to step in and just become solid players.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting because you really, as we're counting this, I'm counting out, when we get on the bubble for that 52nd, 53rd spot, there's a big group of guys, and you're going to have some uncomfortable conversations. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if we kept 5 receivers and somebody got left off that list, like a Craycraft or an OBJ. Would you be completely surprised if we kept 3 running backs?
I wouldn't.
We might have to find spaces to kind of keep a guy less. I think from looking at this, I think it's guaranteed that we only keep 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, there are some really tough choices. I think we are going to definitely trade for late round picks. I'm just trying to figure out who. I know McDaniel probably wants to keep four 4 running backs, but I think we can even see Mostert, Wright, and Achane are up here.
Yeah.
Everybody else down here. And it's like, okay, just so we have 4, is that worth giving up one of our tight ends who look really good? Is that worth exposing Storm Duck to practice squad to get picked up, or losing Channing Tindall or Zeke Vandenberg? That I don't know. They're going to look up the rule because I think there's some discussion about the rule with the quarterback. I knew they changed something. I thought it was that you could have a quarterback. You could elevate
I
the
thought
quarterback.
you could keep the quarterback on the practice squad, and he wouldn't count against your 53, and then he gets elevated for game days. But I could also be wrong.
Yeah, okay, so what I see from KD, Miami only keeping 2 QBs on the roster. The third one will end up on the practice squad due to the rule change. So that's what I thought it was too.
If KD said it, it is true.
Yes. So I would agree with that. So yeah, we're not keeping 3 quarterbacks. It's going to be interesting because then we are traditionally one of the most active teams when it comes to putting waiver claims in too.
Yeah, I don't think this year is going to be like that. I maybe an offensive lineman. If we're unhappy with some of those guys, the defense is kind of set, unless you're going to add an outside linebacker because Chubb isn't ready.
Yeah, and we did try. It did come out. I don't know if you saw this, that we did try to trade for Matthew Judon.
I believe that we called.
We called at least, so there was interest, but like I said, that could have been. We don't know when it was, so there's some information missing. But Mike McDaniel said his favorite position is edge. So,
but I would love to look back and see the amount of edges that have been kept on Mike McDaniel teams, on Anthony Weaver teams, and just know what those breakdowns are. Well, the funny part about football, I feel like every team should get a kicker, punter, and a long snapper not counted into the 53.
Yeah.
I think you should get 53 football players.
Speaking of punters, can we just someone give me the name of the kid who's been camping out? Kyle
Ulbrich, is that it?
Kyle Ulbrich. Yeah, let's just give him a tryout, please.
I have a theory.
Okay.
What if, and I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to be the guy that says it. What if the kid's not good?
Well, he might not be, but we know the punter we have. We know the punter we have isn't good. He did
but like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he had some good numbers in college and what is it, Middle Tennessee State?
Yeah.
But like, what? Like, I hate to be that guy. I hate it.
I'm just saying, we just need another punter to get a look.
So like, okay, you give the punter a look. Now, the next time our backup quarterback stinks, you're going to have 5 guys that are standing outside and are trying out to be quarterback. Right. Look, Zach just said it in the private chat. Zach, you are so right. You feed one stray cat, and then the whole rest of the outside cats are going to be lining up to get fed. You got to cut it off. I love the story. I think it's a great story. I think it's a fun story. If we would have given him a chance and he would have beaten out Jake Bailey, this would have been one of the greatest stories. But like, that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Does the kid live down here?
Yeah, he's a Dolphins fan. Apparently, he's local.
He was outside
at the game.
Has he reached out to any other teams?
You'd have to ask Mr. S that.
Mr. S, has Kyle talked to other teams?
Yeah.
And yeah, Zach, you are so right about this. You're so right. The XFL, the Canadian Football League, guess what? Guess what, Brett? I want to punt for the Miami Dolphins too.
Well, go sit outside the camp and join him. Have a beer with Kyle.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah,
I
just sit
think
out
has
there
he
and have a beer with
stopped at
him.
this point, or is he still out there?
Hmm?
Has he stopped? I think I saw something the other day. He said it was the last time he was doing it.
I don't know. I just know that Danny Crossman said he shows up at 3 a.m. and doesn't see him, so he showed up an hour
Danny,
early.
listen, pause. If Danny Crossman is showing up to the facility at 3 a.m., then come on. What are we doing? Like I just don't understand it. He's showing up at 3 o'clock in the morning, staying through practice, and we have the worst special teams unit in the league. What are we doing?
Yeah. Well, we might not this year with the new
it won't kill you.
With the new kickoff rules, we might not have the worst anymore, which I'm curious how that's going to look because they would definitely
change stuff. What time does Danny Crossman go to bed?
Maybe he's like Chris Forster was. He just lives off of cocaine.
And that would explain our special teams.
Yeah.
They really put the special in those teams.
Yeah. But what was your thought seeing live the new kickoff rules?
It was weird. It was definitely weird. To me, it's a little more action, which is interesting because it almost felt like they were trying to go the opposite way and make the kickoff just kick it out of the end zone and let's play the game. And they didn't want contact. Now it seems like they're almost going for something that's going to create more contact, which is weird.
Yeah. They want the returns, but they don't want the high impact collisions. So you're going with something that more you have. It's supposed to be close to actual football snaps. So they're doing that.
I think there are going to be more touchdowns. Now, let me ask you this, Brett. We get to week 1 of the NFL season, and there are the most returns for touchdowns we've ever seen. It's out of control. There are so many kick returns for touchdowns. How long do they keep the rule in play?
This year, and then they change it.
You think they let the entire year go with it being out of control?
They went the whole year with the booth reviewing pass interference. I don't think you can change a rule mid-season either.
I think what they should have done is this year done it for just the preseason
and tested
it, and then next year added it to the regular season.
Yeah, Mr. S says Sean Payton already wants it tweaked.
Sean Payton's a little bit of a tweaker.
Yeah, it just is weird. Like I saw it in the XFL, so I was just like, okay, but you can tell no one really knows what to do with it yet. Speaking of special teams, shout out to former Dolphin Jakeem Grant, who officially retired today.
Shout out to Jakeem the Dream.
I thought he'd be so much better than he was. I almost wish he would have turned to converted to running back because he was electric with the ball in his hands. The issue is he couldn't catch.
Brett, it's almost fantasy football season.
It is.
I wrote down every year I have and I hope nobody that's in my fantasy football league is listening to this. I have a list of 4 current sleepers. Perfect timing because Mr. S said it. Every year I make a list. It's just a running list, and then I'm in a big dynasty league, and every year I just go look at my sleepers list, and that's how I draft my dynasty team. I have 4 names for you. Okay. I was trying to make a top 5, but then I switched the topic to fantasy football and didn't have time to add a 5th. Okay. Here are my 4 names. Number 4 is Jonathan Brooks, the running back for the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
I'm giving no explanation. These are my names. Number 3, I'm going Deontay Johnson, also from the Carolina Panthers. However, don't draft both. Only draft one of the 2. That's your tip. Number 2 is George Pickens. I think no matter who the quarterback in Pittsburgh is, he is going to be a stud. And then my number 1 player to draft in your fantasy football leagues, although he is going to start the year as a running back 2, draft Tyjae Spears from the Titans late in your drafts. He will be, especially if you are in a keeper league, he will be a very reliable keeper in the next couple years.
Yeah.
Your fantasy football minute.
Yeah, no, that works. I need to do my
Next segment. Will Zach's bet hit? You ready? Here is Zach's bet of the day. Brett, I will read you the bet. You tell me if it's going to hit or not.
Okay.
Zach, both of these are week 1, or is the first part preseason? Let's give Zach 5 seconds. I'm going to guess they're both week 1. Zach parlayed the Miami Dolphins minus 3.5 against
You
the
said
Jaguars.
first is full season.
Huh?
Second is parlay for week 1.
Oh, so there are 2 bets here. All right, let's talk about the first one. First one is a 2-leg parlay. Dolphins minus 3.5 against the Jaguars, and over 49.5 points. Does Zach's bet hit?
Yes.
How many total points?
I'm going to say 53.
Great, 53. So does Zach's bet hit? Yes. Now, Zach's prop bet of the week is Tua over 25.5 touchdown passes. Remember, we had multiple people here a couple weeks ago that said he was going to throw for 40.
I would say over.
It's only 25.5?
Yeah, I think people kind of look at it and they say like last year, Mostert kind of stole touchdowns from him when
But
we got
didn't he have
close.
29 last year?
I think so.
And if Mostert stole touchdowns from him, wouldn't you think he'd have more?
You'd think so. Mostert had 20 touchdowns.
That's Vegas. Bet responsibly.
But yeah, no, he's gonna be over that. I would say 30. I would say 35 for Tua.
35. All right. Well, that's Zach's bet segment of the week. Brett says yes, both of his bets hit because Brett is a Dolphins homer.
I am a Dolphins homer, and I'm always optimistic. And
Brett, are you one of those bettors that always takes the over, no matter what?
I don't think I've ever bet money yet, so I'm not a bettor. So.
Lucky you.
But I'm also going to be nice to Zach.
Who is a dog to throw 25.5 touchdowns? That's interesting. Interesting.
Plus 112 for that to a TD line.
That means if you bet $100, you win $100.
Yeah, I know what it meant.
I don't know. I don't know what you know.
Yeah.
The last thing that we'll talk about, and then I'll ask you for a list before we get off here. But before we get to that, quick thoughts on the Washington game.
I'm curious who plays. I think we might see. I think some starters might get a quarter. Sounds like practice has been pretty physical for both sides, with sides winning and losing. Honestly, for the Washington game, I'm more excited just to see Jaden Daniels. Again, no one can convince me otherwise. You and I were the first 2 people on Jaden Daniels as any type of prospect last year, and no one can tell us otherwise. And I heard he looked really good, so I am interested to see him. My thoughts for preseason anymore is just get out healthy. You said we already had 3 people go on IR from the first preseason game. And yes, we can say they were only backups or practice squad people, but it sounds bad to say, but no, you don't want to lose anybody. So I just want to get out healthy. What about you?
So I think the amount the starters play is going to be weather dependent. We've gotten some bad weather. And I honestly think that the starters probably would have played a drive in the last game if the field wasn't soaked. It had rained the entire day and then the game. So I think that part of the reason that we saw those guys all sit, even into like the lower end starters sat. I think a lot of those guys probably would have suited up for a drive or two had it not been bad weather. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So I think this weekend, as long as the weather is okay, I think they'll play about a quarter and then get out of there and move on from that. I'm excited to see Jaden Daniels. I got to see if I want to draft him in my keeper league. I got to see it in person before I tab you as Brett disappeared and I'm stuck talking to the Dolphin.
Nope, I'm still here.
I know, but I like talking to the Dolphin for a second. So I think the starters play a quarter, and then I think that they go take their pads off and watch the rest of the game, eating snacks.
Yeah. And you said you had a list for the list?
I do. I do have a list for the list, but I got to get my computer charger before you lose me. And that's my phone charger, so hopefully you don't lose me. So the list for today, Brett, is your top 3 fast food foods. So not just your fast food place.
What you get.
But what is, if you had to pick 3 items to get from fast food places, what would they be?
Okay, so it's going to be weird, but number 3, going to go 3-1. 3, Taco Bell fries when they have them. You got to get them. They have the best seasoning on it. Of course, get other stuff, but you always have to get the Taco Bell fries. Number 2 would be the sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle from McDonald's. Most of my fast food is actually going to be breakfast because that's the only time I really get fast food most of the time. So that'll be that. Number 1, which in my opinion is the best fast food breakfast you can get now, is the breakfast Baconator from Wendy's.
See, I think we talked about this last time. They put sausage on that, right?
Yes.
So they make it look from the outside like that's a burger. So it looks very unappetizing because I don't know if I want a burger in the morning. But
It was definitely sausage.
Okay, that might get me to try, but here we go. I am starting at number 3. So I'm going to be very specific here. One time I was driving up through North Carolina. I was with my family in North Carolina, and we passed this place called Biscuitville. Now, I had never heard of Biscuitville before, but let me tell you, we knew all about Biscuitville by the end of that trip. My number 3 fast food item is a biscuit from Biscuitville. Number 2, as it is the best breakfast item that exists in fast food, it is the bacon, egg, and cheese bagel from McDonald's that they got rid of for a while. But it's not just the bacon, egg, and cheese bagel. It's the breakfast sauce that they put on that. If you are a McDonald's breakfast goer, next time you go, if you don't get a bagel, ask for them to put that breakfast sauce on your sandwich. And if they're like, say the sauce from the bagel. They'll know what you're talking about. They'll put it. It is delicious. Probably very unhealthy, but it's delicious. And the number 1, I actually had for the first time about a couple months ago, because I'm a Florida boy and we don't have Jack in the Box here. A Jack in the Box taco is my number 1 fast food item. I could right now eat anywhere from 8 to 46 of them. They are delicious. You don't really want to look up what's inside, even though it's a mix of a couple things. But that is my number 1 fast food item.
Yeah, that's never good. If you don't want to, speaking of fast food you don't want to see, I don't even think it's served anymore. From Long John Silver's, the deep sea dinner. It was voted most unhealthy.
The deep sea dinner?
Yeah.
What does that entail? It's from Long John Silver's?
It is Long John Silver's, yes. I think they may have taken it off of the menu, but it was literally shrimp, fried fish, and fries. All the fish were deep fried in trans fat.
Here it is. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
2 pieces of batter dipped fish, 2 pieces of batter dipped chicken, 2 sides, 2 hush puppies, and sauce.
Yeah. Most unhealthy meal you can find.
They had, I think, if I remember correctly, a combo when I was in college that was a Long John Silver Bojangles.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Up here, it's always the Taco Bell KFC.
Oh, we have KFC Taco Bells too.
Yeah.
You'd fit in perfectly in South Florida.
Oh.
Have you seen there's It's a Baskin Robbins Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes. There's one right down the street from me, honestly.
What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Of ice cream, mint chocolate chip.
Oh, I knew I liked you. Yes.
Yeah,
yes. All right. We're going to end on that because this cannot get any better. Brett, before we get off, is there anything that you would like to shout out?
Shout out a good preseason so far. It sounds like I'm ready for the season. Hope everybody has a good time. Stay safe. And like I said, I'm going to be on the road in a couple days to go down south. So here's to me getting back in one piece after that's done.
Well, we will catch up with you on the other side of that trip. I think I'm going to be here. Yeah, Brett, you got some sun during this episode. It looks like
I did. The lighting in my room is just so bad, and it just is like messing with me.
It's okay.
So,
but yeah, I guess I am going to be reviewing the Washington game without you next week.
Yep.
So you guys will get to enjoy me mocking my way through an episode. As always, I hope everybody out there loves each other and spreads nothing but peace, especially on X, Mr. S. But other than that, Brett, for Zach, for Mr. S, for Brett, I'm Jordan. We're the list, and we haven't hit that music in a very, very long time.
You know what to do, Zach.